Alright, so here we are in Germany for round 7 of season 2 of the SRL F1 Championship. We're in Germany at the Hockenheim Ring, as you can see here. So it looks like we will be having a rainy race today. It looks like it's going to be full wet conditions, which is going to be the first time the drivers will have to face that this weekend, considering yesterday in qualifying it was completely dry. So talking about qualifying, let's take a look at the highlights from yesterday's session to see what happened and to see who has got pole position for this race, since overtaking can be quite tricky around this circuit, so qualifying means quite a lot. Alright, so here we are for the qualifying recap. Of course, the drivers have 15 minutes in this session to set a flying lap. As we're on board with Niek van Gelder here, going through turn 1 on his first flying lap of this session. As you can see, he's now coming through turn 2. A lot of drivers there struggling on the exit with oversteer. A very tricky traction zone there where a lot of time can be won or lost. Now on board with Dion Staal. He is now coming through turn 1 on his first flying lap as well, as he is in Ferrari now coming up to turn 2 as well. Just a few seconds behind Niek van Gelder on track, and now on board with Alex Benerecetti. He is now coming through turn 2 as well on his first flying lap. He has got 4 laps of fuel in the car, so I'll be looking to do a 3-lap stint on his first run. So now on board with Niek van Gelder. He was the first man to set a lap time of 1 minute 16.9 as he comes through turn 1, but immediately cuts the corner, so this lap won't count for the Dutchman. Now on board with Dion Staal. He will be completing his first lap as well. He set a 1 minute 18, but his lap was taken away from him because he went outside of the track limits at some point. Here we can see Van Gelder going purple through the second sector intermediate. And now on board again with Dion Staal completing his second lap. Van Gelder behind him in his slipstream there, improving to a 1 minute 15.9. Even this is at the end of the session now. Dion is already on his 4th flying lap, but still doesn't have a representative time because all of his laps so far got taken away from him because of cutting corners or going outside of the track limit. So this is his final lap now. The session, the checkered flag is now out, so hopefully Dion will be able to get a competitive lap time in as he completes his final flying lap there of the session. Now on board with Alex Benerecetti completing his final lap of the session. He does a 1 minute 15.8, which is good enough for provisional pole position. Now on board with Niek van Gelder. He is currently in 2nd position, just behind Alex Benerecetti, who is now in pole position, provisionally having a lot of oversteer there on the exit of that corner. 6 seconds to go in the session, so this will certainly be Van Gelder's last flying lap of the session. He's actually down on his time there by about a 10, so it looks like it's going to be very difficult here for the Dutchman to clinch pole position for the second time this season in his 3rd race weekend. Now coming through the final couple of corners, he has a 1 minute 15.9 to improve on as he now comes up to the line, and he actually does improve. So that's pole position for the Dutchman with Alex Benerecetti in 2nd, Francis McGinn, the Scotsman, in 3rd place, with Mosqueda in 4th, Sandro Doulis in 6th. And we also saw some crashes happening, as you can see here, with Dion Staal, Alex Benerecetti and Van Gelder being involved there as well. But luckily everyone managed to escape from that without any serious damage. So yeah, Niek van Gelder on pole position for this race. What we're waiting for, let's get straight down to the grid where the drivers are waiting for the race to get underway. So here we are on the grid then, waiting for the race to get underway. As you can see, it is really pouring it down here in Germany. 17 laps ahead of us for this 7th round of the season. We can see everyone here standing on the grid, ready for the 5 lights to come on as the tension is rising here on the grid. The 1 light comes on, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and they are now out, and away we go for season 2. Round 7 of season 2 of the SRL F1 Championship. Van Gelder starting from pole position, putting his engine up into Rich Mixer. Now on board with the other Dutchman, Dion Staal, coming into turn 1. A lot of drivers there getting shoved out wide as they're caught on the outside of the corner. Alex Benerecetti now taking the lead provisionally as Sandro Doulis is half spinning there in the background. Now on board with Alex Benerecetti as he now leads after the first few corners. Niek van Gelder is fighting straight back down up the inside into the hairpin corner, really breaking it very deep in there. You can see Alex Benerecetti getting squeezed out wide there. A very aggressive move from Niek van Gelder there. A little bit too aggressive maybe, but of course the beginning of the race, only lap 1, so a lot of drivers are getting used to those conditions since it's the first time this weekend. Like I explained earlier, you can see Sandro Doulis there making the same mistake, trying to make a move on Francis McGinn, but going in too deep into the corners. So after the half a lap gone now, and Niek van Gelder is in the lead of this race with Dion Staal now behind him. It is a Dutch 1-2 so far in this race. As you can see now on board with Dion Staal, he actually gets overtaken by Alex Benerecetti there into the stadium section on the final sector on the circuit. So Dion now back into third position. It will be very good for him if he could make the podium for today's race, since I think it's been a while since he last was on the podium. I think it might have been in season 1. Anyway, now into turn 2, Alex Benerecetti makes a move for the lead, but actually spins out there. That was a really weird incident. He kind of tagged the rear of Van Gelder, which really resulted in a very odd spin there for the Colombian. So yeah, that was very interesting there. I think there might have been a little bit of lag involved for that incident. And talking about incidents, Sandro Doulis there colliding with Andrew Hef, and he is now facing backwards into the gravel trap. That has lost him a lot of time and track position, so that's very unfortunate for the Greek driver there. Here is his teammate Dion Staal in the other Ferrari, now trying to fend off P2 from Pedro Mesquita in the McLaren, trying to hug the inside of the corner, managing to so far stay in second position, but Mesquita has the inside for the second part of this stadium section. And now Pedro Mesquita, the Portuguese driver in the McLaren, takes over P2 as Dion Staal comes very close to the back of him into the final corner. So Dion now back into third position, and Francis McGinn now is going up the inside into turn 1 for the final podium position, and the Scottishman makes the move stick there on the beginning of lap 3. Now on board with Niek van Gelder, he is trying to push away at the front, trying to make a gap to Francis McGinn now in second position, as we're on board with Dion Staal again going through this very fast right hand, and we can see Francis and Pedro Mesquita colliding there, and that now promotes Dion Staal back into P2 in this race. As we can see, Niek van Gelder setting a purple sector there on the beginning of lap 4. He's really trying to push away. 5.2 seconds now to Dion Staal, who has now taken over P2 again from Pedro Mesquita, as we're now on board with Alex Benerecetti here on lap 4, really getting very close to the rear of Andrew Hef, the Irishman, now going side by side over the straight here, going purple in the process for Alex Benerecetti. Sandro Doulis as well behind them, kind of waiting for his moment, I think, to attack. Of course, he lost a little bit of time in that spin he had with Andrew Hef, as Andrew now tags Alex Benerecetti into the hairpin, really trying to defend that 5th position, but Alex managed to make it stick and carry on with this race. Now Niek van Gelder coming through turn 1 as we open up lap 6 of this race. The gap now to Dion is actually closed down a little bit. It's now 4.9 seconds as we are now on board with the other Dutchman. So on lap 6 of this race, it's still a Dutch front lockout. Dutch 1-2 in this race, as Dion now breaks into the hairpin. He has Francis McGinn there going up his inside for P2 in this race, but it looks like Dion has out-traction him a little bit. However, Francis will have the inside for this corner after that, and Francis now takes over P2. So yeah, that's job done for the Scottishman. However, he runs wide into turn 8, I think it is, and that promotes Dion Staal back into P2 now. So Dion really faring well in those wet conditions, being so far up the field. Now on board with Niek van Gelder again, and he is really trying to push away at the front here. He doesn't want to make the same mistake as what he did in his first race in Spain, at Catalonia, where of course he got overtaken by Alex Benerecetti on the second phase of that race. Now he's really trying to get his head down, setting a 1:27.999 on lap 6 of this race, as we now open up lap 7, really flying through that first corner there and trying to bridge the gap to his competitor Dion Staal, who is trying to fend off Francis McGinn, as we're now coming over the straight, breaking down for the hairpin, braking just after the 150 meter board, going back into first gear to slow that down for that very tight hairpin corner. Now flying through this right hander here, reaching for the apex in Rich Mix 3, which is very tricky of course in the wet, as we now break down, trail braking it in there through the stadium section, setting a purple lap here on lap 8 of this race. 1:27.3 flying through the first corner as well. So this race is looking very good for the Dutchman, and he might be able to get his first race win in SRL, as we're now on board with Dion Staal getting overtaken by Francis McGinn once again into the hairpin. He has to leave space on the inside as the Mercedes driver tries to get through on him, and it looks like he's gonna out traction the Dutchman. So Francis McGinn now up into second place again. Really good scrap here for P2 in this race on lap 7 of 17. Dion running it a little bit wide there through that corner, again missing the apex slightly, and that promotes Pedro Mesquida now back into P3. So he is really fighting hard for that podium position. Now on board with Niek van Gelder here again on lap 8. The gap is now 10 seconds and he has lost connection. So that's really unfortunate there. For the second time in a row, Niek van Gelder has lost connection in a league race for SRL. So that's pretty unfortunate there. Really not having the luck at his side at this moment, disconnecting 2 times in a row. But anyway, back to this race now. We can see Alex Benerecetti there made a move on Dion Staal. This is a replay here. You can see it from Dion's POV, how he gets overtaken by the Colombian up the inside into the hairpin. A very clean move there for the Colombian, who, remember, got spun out on the first or on the second lap, who is now making a recovery drive to try and get back into that podium position. Now, this is his teammate, Pedro Mesquida there. The 2 McLaren teammates now fighting side by side as he now come through this right-hander. Alex has to leave space there on the inside, but I think he has cleared the move. Now on board with Dion again, already on lap 11 of this race. As we can see, those 3 cars, they're going 3 wide. Mesquida, Benerecetti, and I think it was Francis McGinn there going 3 wide through that corner. That was pretty crazy. But it looks like the 2 McLaren teammates are now still going side by side there. Alex having to leave the space there for Pedro Mesquida, but now is the inside on his teammate as he gets squeezed out a little bit. Dion almost hitting the back of Pedro Mesquida there, but it looks like Mesquida is gonna maintain P3. Dion has to brake there because Mesquida cut across the front of him and the door was closing. So now Alex Benerecetti making a move for the lead of this race. Of course, Niek van Gelder not in this race anymore. That means that this battle is now for the lead of this race as Alex takes the lead briefly. I think Francis might be able to get him back, but actually Alex has really good traction out of that corner, but then bottles it here running wide into that corner complex, and now Francis McGinn takes over the lead again of this race. So this is really holding up here on lap 9 of 17. Pedro Mesquida also wanting to join the party there in 3rd position, and Alex now getting really close to Francis, almost losing the back end, and Pedro is now back into P2 as Alex runs a little bit wide there, touching the white line, but luckily managed to hang on in P3. And of course Dion also still very close behind him. Now Pedro wants the lead. He tries to make the move as Mesquida and Francis McGinn collide there. And Pedro Mesquida now takes over the lead of this race, but he has his teammate Alex Benerecetti there very close in his slipstream. And Benerecetti now goes up alongside on the back straight as he now breaks down for the hairpin. It looks like he is going to be the last of the late breakers. No, he's not. Pedro Mesquida fights back into the hairpin. Alex is shoved out wide and Pedro Mesquida takes over the lead of the race once again as Alex tries to look up the inside into this corner. They both run a bit wide and that allows Francis McGinn out back up into P1. So really great strap here between those top 3 drivers. I think Dion Staal is still in 4th place behind them waiting for his chance, and Alex now runs wide. That allows Pedro Mesquida once again up into P2, but they are still going side by side, so Alex Benerecetti will have the inside for this corner and he maintains P2 now on lap 11 of 17. Now on board with Dion Staal, he is looking from behind as he now breaks down for the hairpin corner. Sandro Doulis, the other Ferrari driver, of course having that spin with Andrew Heff early on in the race, is also making a recovery drive and is now trying to attack his teammate now, trying to go up the inside. Dion has to leave the space there, but Dion Staal will have the inside for turn 8 here. As we can see the replay on board from Sandro Doulis here, trying to make the move into the hairpin on his Ferrari teammate and trying to out-traction him here on the exit of the hairpin. A very tricky tracking zone, of course, coming out of 1st gear, and Sandro there looking to the left, seeing where his teammate is. He actually has to cut the corner here a little bit in order to avoid contact, so it's completely fine there. However, Sandro Doulis runs a bit wide and yeah, can't get through on his teammates so far. Now back into the live action again with Alex Benerecetti again outbraking himself into that corner there. He's now in P2 and he's losing touch a little bit with Francis McGinn, who is really setting a great pace here at the front of the race. And now Pedro Mesquida once again takes over P2 in this race. However, Alex wants to fight back into the hairpin, nudges his teammate a little bit, bumps him out wide, but it looks like Pedro Mesquida has managed to keep it on the track there as he's now still going side by side with Alex Benerecetti. However, Benerecetti will have the inside for this corner, and it looks like he's going to maintain P2 now. So the McLaren drivers back into P2 and 3 respectively, and they need to stop battling as Alex Benerecetti runs wide once again, and this battling is really allowing Francis McGinn there to drive off into the distance. Dion Staal now still in 4th position on lap 14, actually makes a mistake going into the gravel trap, spinning out, hitting Wolf there a little bit, luckily to get away with that without any damage, but now he's lost 4th position to his teammate Sandro Doulis, as the finish is coming nearby, of course, on lap 16 of 17 now. Only 2 laps to go as Sandro Doulis now tries to make a move on, I think it's Alex Benerecetti. Yeah, Alex Benerecetti for the final podium position in this race. This is going to be the battle for P3 with 1.5 laps to go. Of course, both having had a recovery drive. Alex spinning out on the beginning of lap 2 and Sandro a little bit later as Alex Benerecetti tries to lunge it up the inside. As you can see from the replay here, however, Sandro Doulis managed to have the cutback line and managing to get back into P3. As you can see, Alex, I don't know how many times he's outbroken himself into that section now, but it's really costing him for this race so far. As we can see, this is now on the final lap, the battle for the final podium position. Alex tries to cut the corner a little bit to avoid contact, but Sandro Doulis still has the inside line as they collide now, and Sandro is round for the 2nd time in this race, and Alex Benerecetti looks like he will be getting into P3 for this race, as Sandro Doulis really lost a lot of time from that, and Dion Staal was quite far behind there, so he couldn't capitalize on that mistake by Alex Benerecetti and Sandro Doulis. So Alex Benerecetti now comes round the corner as Francis McGinn takes out the race win with Pedro Mesquida in 2nd. Alex Benerecetti is going to drive home in 3rd position, and Sandro Doulis is going to salvage some points in 4th place as he now comes over the line with his teammate Dion Staal here, coming home in 5th position with Andrew Heff behind him in 6th. But yeah, that was this race. Francis McGinn there taking out a very good win, which is really going to do him well in the championship. Pedro Mesquida also getting a great podium there, and Alex Benerecetti, of course, having had that spin on the beginning of lap 2, doing a great recovery drive there to get back on the podium. Sandro Doulis unfortunately just missing out on the podium, but still taking away a very solid 12 points for the championship with his teammate backing him up behind him in 5th position. So yeah, that's been the race here for the German Grand Prix. And yeah, next time out we will be in Belgium for Spa-Francorchamps. So yeah, we'll be definitely looking forward to that race weekend, since that's of course a very special track which always throws up some good races. So yeah, Francis McGinn here is today the winner for round 7 of season 2 of the SRL F1 Championship. A well-deserved winner for the young Scottishman. And to round off this video, I'm gonna leave you with the final winning celebration.